Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. We are in English today, but if a few words come out in French, c'est correct. J'ai pas de problème avec ça. Joining me will be former Montreal Impact player, coach, sporting director, Nick Desantis, always a treat, and Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM and IMFC Radio. What are we going to be talking about? Romel Kyoto is back in town, but his next game with CF Montreal is in over a month from now. Do you re-sign him? Do you replace him now with a free agent? Do you wait till the next Mercado? Or is it statu quo? We will talk about that. MLS rumors, a fourth DP, cash cap going up, top 5 leagues in North America. The chart is out. Who spends the most? Who spends the least? I don't think it's going to surprise you, but I don't think you're going to be happy about it. So what changed with CF Montreal? Because once upon a time, they would spend and they would go for it. And right now, they are doing neither. Will they ever go back to their spending again? Mbappe to MLS doesn't seem realistic, but Neymar certainly does, and it's gathering steam each and every minute. We'll discuss all that and more. CF Montreal Talk. It's the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. It's gonna be sick.
I'm Marinaro, and we're back, and we're live on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do so. It's absolutely free. We are live on Facebook, and we are live on Twitter. Jeremy Filosa, good afternoon.
How's it going, Tony, my friend?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
And always a treat when we have a chance to speak with this guy. He was Mr. Montreal Impact himself. Number 4, Nick Desantis. Good afternoon, Nick.
Hey, Tony.
Another player will be wearing your number, by the way. Did you catch that? Fernando Alvarez will be wearing number 4.
Boo, no respect. Boo.
Hey, don't start you.
Hopefully he's a good one.
We have to ease Nick in gradually. Don't start, Jeremy. Be a good boy. Hey, who would have thought then when, Nick was actually the one doing press conferences and you and I were there and we were asking questions, that years later we would actually all be together and collaborating, Jeremy. You see the way soccer brings people together? Well, at least most people.
Yeah. Well, I think aside from all the jobs that we had to do, whether it was in the club or outside the club, I think there always remained a friendship, a respect. And I never had any doubt that we would be able to continue that kind of relationship. And now, we can have a little bit of fun and, talk soccer and people can enjoy it, obviously.
You remember when you questioned the 3 coaches on the payroll and Nick was one of the 2 people at that table and Joey was saying, is it your money? Is it your money? And Nick was just...
I just want to make sure I understand correctly. There's 3 coaches on the payroll.
But is it your money?
Jeremy, we had a picture of you when we had darts for hitting the wall.
Not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Hey, Nick, if there's one guy who knows a lot about transfer market, it would be you. You were an integral part of it. Romel Kyoto has been away. He's now back in Montreal. He suffered an injury. He was gone for about 3 months, Nick. You could tell, much to the dismay of CF Montreal vice president and I forget all his titles, but anyway, Direction Sportive, sporting officer, Olivier Renard. He would, give a few jabs here and there that Romel was here, there, and everywhere. He was here, he was there, but he wasn't in Montreal. But he had actually said a couple of months ago, at one point the plane will come in. Hopefully he'll be on it. Well, he was on it. He's back. But now we're hearing that he's going to be back in game action around mid-September. All right. So my question to you, Nick, is let's start with Romel Kyoto. Jeremy, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we get the feeling that Kyoto is gone after this season. What's your feeling?
Yeah, I think that, signs of maybe having that question in mind is that, a player that is away from the team and from the city for 3 months, I think is already an indication. I understand sometimes a player wants to get treated elsewhere. I remember a few of our players, when they needed something extra or they felt, because there's always a confidence level with certain people, whether it's medical staff, therapists, but they go away maybe 3-4 days and then come back. But to think of a player being away for 3 months, not around the team, to me, it's a red flag. And that's something that, again, now he's back. He'll be ready, I guess, in September. But all of a sudden now, the team, what message do you send to the others? Is he really back mentally as well? Those are all question marks that they're going to, I guess, have to evaluate in the upcoming month.
Jeremy, the big question now, I guess, is do you replace him now with a free agent, or do you wait for the next transfer market?
Well, before I answer that question, let me just put a couple of things clear. The club was not happy about the fact that he went back to Honduras to get his treatments. That's probably what generated, Olivier Renard to take a few shots at him in the media. But now they allowed Matko Milovic to go back to Argentina to do his rehab. So why not Romel Kyoto? Now, everybody that I have spoken to around Romel Kyoto is telling me that he's super motivated to end the year very well because he's going to be working for a new contract. I agree with you. I don't think they're bringing him back. I love Romel Kyoto. When he's healthy, he's a force to be reckoned with in this league. He's proven he can score at will. The problem is 3 straight seasons, long-term injuries. And so if you're going to pay a player $1 million, he's got to be able to stay on the field. I think he's gone at the end of the year. If you ask me, should they replace him? My answer, absolutely yes. They should try and get a player of equivalent value. Will they do it? Probably not. It doesn't seem like it's a priority in the team to get veteran players anymore. They just want to play the young guys. So they'll pick up another project somewhere here or there, who knows? And, they'll flip the coin and hope that this guy develops. I don't expect anything anymore. I have no more expectations in terms of picking up guys or of any significance or that are, game ready to make a difference.
Nick, totally understand what you're saying, but Miljevic chose to get operated in Argentina. Now he's going back to Argentina. Romel Kyoto goes back to Honduras for his rehab and recovery. If all the players keep on doing this, A, it doesn't look very good on the medical staff that you have here. And B, it sets an omen for everybody else to want to do the same thing.
Yeah, but if you look at professional sports everywhere, Tony, a lot of players, whether hockey players, basketball players, they go get surgery in different states, in different countries as well. That happens all the time. My question is more to be away for 3 months.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, I understand if it's off season, but in season to be away for 3 months where, the staff has no understanding or control of any situation of what's going on. They don't have a measuring stick in terms of where he's at. So they're just, getting info through him, or I guess if they have a contact there with a medical staff where, they're speaking every day, that could be as well. I don't know. I'm not in that situation to understand it as clearly as they do. But, remarks that were made as well, little jabs. I'm saying it's only normal that you're not happy. And I don't think probably the club was happy that he was away for that much time.
Don't forget one thing, guys, okay? There's a window coming up, an international window, and Honduras has 3 games scheduled in September. Now, all depending, because, Vasily...
They're going to go nuts if he plays.
Well, listen, Vasily mentioned on TSN Radio that they're expecting him to come back on September 16th. But that may mean that he might be ready in 2 weeks, but we won't play a game till September 16th. So if he goes to the Honduran national team, and he plays a few minutes here and there in a few games to bring him back, that's all good. That's positive. But we know what the Hondurans have done to Romel Kyoto in the last couple of years every time he goes there.
Every time he goes, he gets hurt. Yeah.
No, yeah, he gets hurt because they abuse. They abuse of him, unfortunately. So let's see what happens with that international window. I don't think Montreal is going to make the playoffs this year, especially with the loss of Rudy Camacho. Nobody has proven at this point that they can take over that position of libero in the middle of the defense. Every time they've played without him, they've gotten absolutely destroyed. So they need to prove to me that they're able to keep things afloat without Rudy Camacho. I don't think they will make the playoffs, but Romel Kyoto is your wild card. He is your wild card. If he comes in and he's motivated, guys, he could be a difference maker, and he could push this team into a playoff spot.
Nick, we're not there yet, but I'll bring it up anyway, and I know I'll bring it up once again at a later point. But if you were the sporting director of this team today, and you were told that you were going to start next season with, at the forward position, Opoku, Ofer, Toy, Vilsaint, Ibrahim, you would say what?
It's tough for me to answer that because, again, I believe that there's objectives, there's a philosophy that's put in place at the beginning of every season. A sporting director, a coach, he signs off on what the philosophy is, if he's happy with it. And I think right now, I think that it's clear that their objective is, to bring in younger players that they feel have value and potential, and give them playing time to try to, make some money off of it. And I think it's been clear with that. So, in the end, the sporting director has to understand too and accept those philosophies. Back way when it was a different philosophy, understanding and knowing Joey the way I knew him, he wanted to win tomorrow. And when you want to win tomorrow, it's extremely difficult to not bring in players that can make a difference and that can help younger players as well. And I think we were always in a position to try to win tomorrow. So, they're in a different situation today with the forwards they have too. Like, I agree with Jeremy is that if Romel is in a good way, mentally, physically, for sure, I think that he's a player that causes a lot of problems, and not only on his technical ability, but his experience, his personality. You need players, because look at even the forwards you just mentioned. They showed glimpses of things, but there's no consistency, and that's only normal too because of the level they have, because of the inexperiences they have. So that's one of the main things, is that if you want to win, championships, or you want to keep going further, you need those 2-3 players that, that take you over that line. And, I think last year, with players like Mihailovic, that was able to take the team and have that confidence and personality to say, I'm the go-to guy. And it was clearly shown. Now you have a guy like Duke where he shows glimpses of it. He's a clever little player, but I don't think right now he has the personality, to do that.
And that's the thing. You know what, Nick, is like, when they talk about, well, last year everybody was happy with the project, but last year you had a balanced team. I always talking about balance on a team. Yes, you had your veteran, Kai Kamara, who was there for those 8 to 10 goals a year. You had your star player, who was Romel Kyoto, who became your team MVP, and you could count on him to put the ball at the back of the net. You had Georgi Mihailovic, who was, becoming a solid MLS player and who contributed a lot. And then, you did have a Mason Toy, younger players, projects, but that's okay. It's all fine. Nobody complains if you have projects, but if you mix them in with veterans, established players, then it all works out. But if you start the year, Tony, as you mentioned, with the guys that you named, for me, those guys, there's nobody proven, and they all remain projects. You can't go nowhere like that.
All right. So, okay. Well, speaking of going nowhere, here's a chart that was brought up by Sportico. As a matter of fact, they put together the chart. I'll ask you to look at it carefully. But in the top 5 pro sports leagues in North America, there are a total of 152 teams. And of the 152 teams, let's bring up the chart if we can. There you go. You will see that at the far right, dead last, at number 152 of 152 teams, is CF Montreal. Nick, You talked about when you were there, Joey wanted to win tomorrow. It's going to be very hard to win tomorrow when you're last in the league in terms of money spent at just over 10 million. There's talks of another DP being added. It's an MLS rumor at this point. The cash cap going up to $7 million. When did things change? All right, let me just show you the year-end presser, 2016. Let's hear from Joey Saputo.
Façon réaliste, avec nos progrès constants et mesures d'année en année, je crois que nous avons tous les ingrédients nécessaires et notre objectif est de remporter la Coupe MLS d'ici les 5 prochaines années.
All right. Joey Saputo says, if we do what we have to do, I think it's realistic to think we can win the MLS championship within 5 years. You were there at the time, Nick. I know you remember the presser. It was back in 2016. 5 years makes 2021. Today, we're in 2023. To which Adam Brass said this.
No pressure with the MLS Cup statement.
It's 5 years, Adam. Plenty of time.
Yeah, no pressure with the MLS Cup statement. Good one, Adam. Okay, Nick, what changed in your opinion? And I know you're not there right now, but at one point, something changed. This was an organization that went out, and you went out, and boom, you signed the deal with Marco Di Vaio. You went out, you signed the deal with Nacho Piatti. You went out, you signed the deal with Didier Drogba. What changed, Nick?
I guess, philosophy. I think that those years too, the club was losing a lot of money, which I think a lot of clubs do as well. But that's what happens at times when you want to be on top. When you talk about the last couple of years, and it's funny because expectations, objectives, and the hype changes, because in the last few years, it's weird, because if we would be 5 years ago or 6 years ago in 10th place, when you have players that you want to kind of like be in the playoffs and have a run, we'd be under a lot of pressure. Right now, it's almost like, we're in a good position. So the philosophy's changed, guys. Back then, we were fighting against Toronto TFC that had Jovinko, Bradley, Altidore, and we needed to try to compete, and we did compete against them. So philosophy's changed, the objectives have changed, and that's something that, whether it's he's tired of losing that kind of money, I don't know. I'm not there anymore. But I knew back way when, we'd have those conversations of, going younger and trying to invest in young players. But in the end, understanding Joey and, would he rather have 3 players of $2 million at 21 years old or a Nacho Piatti? I'm saying around the table, it sounds nice, but then, are you able to or willing to be patient with 3 21-year-olds that give you 3 good games and 8 bad ones, and then you're looking at each other going, what's going on? So we wanted confirmed players. I think we brought those confirmed players that made a difference. And now everything's changed, and objectives have changed, philosophies have changed, and expectations have changed, because now, like I said, you're in 10th place, and they feel, they're in a good position. So I can't really answer, is it that he's tired of spending money? Probably. Of losing money? Probably. But knowing Joey too, he wanted to win. And I know that his biggest moments are when you're winning games. His biggest moments are when you're playing a Champions League final with 60,000 people, a semifinal. And that's
so, Nick, if I can, what you're saying is at one point the philosophy changed. So everyone understands the philosophy. The philosophy is not to spend the money that they used to. The philosophy is to try and get some young players, probably not a lot of money. The philosophy is to try and play them and then sell them. But knowing Joey the way you know Joey, even though it's probably pretty much very unrealistic for this team to win based on the amount they spend, more so on the amount they don't spend. Knowing them the way you do, you still think it's killing them inside where they are in the standings and that they're not winning more games, even though it's almost virtually impossible to spend $10 million and win most of your games and go far.
Well, you can look at it two ways. Either he distances himself and kind of tries to get away from it, but knowing Joey, I'm saying he wants to win every game. I think that, the incident that happened last year, even with Wilfred, after a loss at home, that shows you that you want to win. I know Joey, he wants to win every game, and it's rightfully so. Now, understanding the context and the reality of winning every game with that product is unreasonable. So, is it hurting him inside? Probably. But, I think that they've met certain objectives. They got in a position to sell some players too. Those are gratifying as well. And those are objectives that are met. But I don't know now if he's happy, if he's not happy. That's something that I can't answer.
I got a lot of things to say here, so I hope you'll give me the time.
Go ahead.
I remember after Drogba left, I had a chat with Richard Legendre, and there was another reporter there with me. I don't remember who it was. And we were talking with him, and he told us, guys, spending on these stars, it's over for us. It's over. We're going to go a model that's going to resemble Salt Lake City, Portland, Houston Dynamo.
Not Portland, I can assure you.
What's that?
Not Portland.
Was it Portland? I think it was Salt Lake.
Portland spends a lot of money.
Jeremy, Portland has had a couple of number 10s over the past couple of years. Not Portland.
Okay, so whatever. I don't remember exactly the teams that he named, but he said, we're not going to be spending that money. I think the way that things ended with Drogba was, an important moment. It was a turning moment. I don't think Joey wanted to live that anymore, to have that hang over his head, a superstar player, not happy, wanting to leave. All that feud between the fans, who's on Joey's side, who's on Drogba's side. Now, they were losing a lot of money, about $10 million a year in and year out.
When
then
players are happy, they don't want to leave, by the way, just so you know. When players are happy, they don't want to leave.
Of course. Okay, so the team was losing about $10 million a year. Then the COVID hit, and then they lost more money, a lot more money. And I think that solidified the idea that as of this moment, we're changing our philosophy. Joey's fun now, it's not the wins anymore, Nick. It's, we sold this guy for $5 million. All right. That's why I suggested we should ring the bell when a player is sold, because that seems like right now, that's the objective of the team. I had a chat with somebody at Sportigo a few years ago, off the record on Twitter, in private messages, who told me every $1 million you spend as an owner normally will get you $5 million more in your evaluation. Every million. Who makes that money in this world? I don't understand. But look at the other owners and all the money that they invest, whether it be in their academy, whether it be in their training center, whether it be in their stadium, whether it be on the field, on the players, in the whatever. Every million you spend, they will evaluate your property $5 million more. So that's what I don't understand.
Makes sense, because they probably spent about $60 million on Messi. And they're probably going up about $300 million in their evaluation. We're talking about it.
But Tony, if you put $25,000 in your house and you redo your kitchen, can you sell your house $75,000, $100,000 more? Probably yes. That's the way the world turns. Now,
imagine if I would put my autograph on the wall.
Imagine.
I get $2 million more, Jeremy.
So just to tell you, but then. I think Olivier Renard said it best when he said, you know what, I don't want to lie to people. I don't want to tell them that we're playing for championships because I don't feel good saying something like that. Last year, guys, the team is one of the best teams in the league. You have a true, realistic opportunity to win, and you pick up nobody at the deadline. Nobody. You picked up Chinonzo 04 and you loaned them out to Belgium. That's it. You added zero. This year, you're in a playoff race, and you let go of your best defender, and you admit that you're bringing in a 19-year-old project, okay? I have no problem with projects, but timing is everything. Why did you keep Georgie last year and told him, no problem, we'll let you go, but you're going to finish the year with us? Why? because we're in a race. We're
Because they have
trying
to make the
win something.
playoffs. They would have let
Okay.
Georgia go. They don't make the playoffs. They get crucified.
Okay, yeah, but so now you're letting Camacho go, a proven veteran, potentially your MVP this year, and you bring in a 19-year-old who you say yourself in a press conference is a project, and now people are supposed to think that what? That you're going out there to win. No, stop it.
You brought up Olivier Renard, all right? In a sense, some are going to say he's got a difficult job because we know the context that is and all that. No, but Jeremy, I beg to differ. I think he's got a great job. He's not expected to make the playoffs. They spent $10 million a year.
No, there's no expectations.
He's got to play young players. Their value, some of them, it's going to go up by default. Sometimes it goes up just by getting minutes. Obviously, the better performances, the more it goes up.
Of course.
They sell players. Hey, he probably said to Joey, this is what you want me to do? No problem. Joey probably told him, yeah, you know what? For every player that you sell, that we sell more than $1 million, I'll give you a bonus. But no problem.
Well, but a lot of technical directors have that kind of deal in their contract where they have bonuses added to their salaries if they sign players. And if that's the case, then why would he want to change any of that philosophy? It wouldn't make sense to him. But when I asked them about Camacho and why they were letting him go, and they said, nobody remembers that 3 years ago or whatever, he wasn't playing so well, and people were upset with him. Yeah, and in 3 years. Talk about Messi where he was in 3 years. Talk about Messi where he is now. You can't compare. What happened 3 years ago, the value of a player can go from 100 million to zero, depending on what happens. So what happened 3 years ago, ça compte plus. Ça existe plus. What we know right now is that teams were interested in him. He's your MVP defenseman. And whatever happened 3 years ago with his medication or whatever, it doesn't exist anymore. But the reality is what it is right now.
So, Nick, we obviously, everyone knows what's going on with Lionel Messi and what's going on with Inter Miami. I mean, he's got 7 goals in 4 games. 4 games, he was the man of the match in all 4 games. He's taking the league by storm. He's taking Leeds Cup by storm. They've added Busquets. They've added Jordi Alba. He went to the worst team in the league, and all of a sudden, the worst team in the league, you don't even know if they're going to lose a game between now and the end of the year. Now, there's an MLS rumor, once again, I'll bring it up, of adding a 4th DP. This team, as a DP, they have Victor Wanyama, who, if I gave you Victor Wanyama as a DP and you're only DP, Nick, you would say what exactly?
Well, you look at the positions. To me, when you're talking about a DP, you have to right away think of, okay, where is it most important? I think for me, DPs are either forward, that's going to guarantee you between 15 and 20 goals, or a 10, an offensive midfielder. A defensive mid is extremely, extremely important because of leadership qualities, because of personality, because being a link between the offense and the defense. With all due respect to Wanyama, because I think he's a very good player. If you have one DP spot, I would probably put it somewhere else. With all due respect to Wanyama.
But what I want to know, Nick, I'm probably putting you on the spot here, but you're a big boy. I know you can take it. So I'll just ask you. If you were in that room today and, okay, you got the 3 DPs, you got the team spending the way they're spending, you know who they are, and now there's talk of a 4th DP, there's talk of the cash cap going up to $7 million, and this project, this philosophy that they have right now, and they've had for a couple of years, is explained to you, because Jeremy and I, we get the feeling that everyone just looks at everyone and says, okay, well, that's what you want. It's okay. But we know that when you were there, even when Joey didn't agree, like sometimes you would try and change his mind, and sometimes you would fight for something. So I want to ask you that if you were there right now, and this was explained to you that this is the philosophy and this is the business model, you want to win too, you would say what?
Yeah, it's tough to answer, because maybe you can go after a young player that his potential is very high, but the top. I'll give you an example. In South America, the top young players. When you look at Almiron that came to Atlanta, Almiron would have never went to Atlanta if Tata Martino wasn't there. Was there? It's impossible, because you have to sell this project to a player that has already huge interest in Europe, all right? And you need to sell this. And I think, look at what's going on now in Miami. Miami now, you have Tata Martino. You have Messi that can pick up the phone and say to a player, you're going to love it here. It's great. This is the future. All of a sudden now, it starts putting more leverage on your side. And I think that, in MLS, there's a lot of still I think in South America, because I knew that market very well, players that, young players that you can get, but you have to be willing to put, say, $10 million on the table for a 20-year-old. And this is where now all of a sudden, when you talk about philosophies and talk about, because whether it's a sporting director, a club, everything's a risk. Everything. And the higher the risk, it's only normal that the bigger the monies there are, the higher the risk. And you can't get those wrong. When an owner says to you, here's 10 million or 15 million, go get me a difference maker, right? You better get it right, because it's going to cause problems if you don't. And what happened in Toronto this year, I'm saying, when you bank on two players at that kind of money and it doesn't pan out, that's the result, and these are things that have to be evaluated. So even with young players, if you want a top prospect that comes in and starts making a difference, or you can go after a Miljevic that, he's got potential, but he's not ready to make a difference. And those cost less, right? But they're not going to make that difference. And maybe they'll never make it. Maybe they will. That depends even on the environment he's in,
Jeremy?
Listen, with the fourth DP that they might be bringing in, I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think the real thing that the MLS needs to do is to establish a salary floor. Because in every league of every sport, whether it be soccer or baseball or hockey, there are teams that will just survive off the share revenue, or in the MLS, the allocation money. It exists in all the leagues. In the NHL, for example, they decided, no, you got to spend at least this much. And I think that's what it's going to have to come to in the MLS, because I don't think other owners, and I don't think the commissioner, must be very happy seeing that they have an owner here in Montreal that lives off the allocation money, basically. So he takes the money from the league, whatever the league generates, whatever they give him, or whatever he can get off allocation money from sales of players, and that's the budget. The rest goes in his pocket. So he's not contributing to the pot of building and growing the MLS. He's using the league's money to build his team, and that's it. But how long can that last? How long till other owners say, but this guy, can he not also generate money that will generate allocation, that will get us all richer and give us all a bigger pot? It doesn't make much sense.
So Nick, if this is the direction they're going over,
when we talk, getting back to the fourth DP and adding monies to the salary cap, the good thing right now is that the league is starting to veer towards catering to the top clubs. Before, they used to cater to the bottom clubs.
Yeah,
true.
Now, all of a sudden, when, players of this importance like Messi, and you start seeing the investments these clubs are making, all of a sudden now the league is in a position to say, hey, we need to start going towards what they're thinking and what their needs are.
Yeah.
And let's see if the clubs underneath are able to sustain, because we have a whole list of clubs and markets that want to come into the league.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good thing, because I still believe that
it's not a good thing for Montreal, Nick.
But you know what, Tony, guys, it's all going towards an eventual relegation system. Guys, I don't know where they're going to stop.
I don't think that'll ever happen in North America, Tony.
No, it's going to happen, guys. It's
American culture. No,
I agree with
guys. Trust me, there will be an MLS A and an MLS B, and there will be teams going up and down. I'm not saying there's going to be a huge difference in revenues between the two leagues like there is in Europe. No, you could say, you know what? The teams that are in MLS A will share 55% of the pot. The teams that are in MLS B will share 45% of the pot. But I think that's where we're going to.
I wouldn't bet
guys, I'm telling you, because in the long term, what are you going to do? You're going to have one champion of the MLS Cup for 36 teams, and we're always going to know that. Look at the teams that win the MLS Cup, guys. You can always say that, if you have a reasonable budget, you could always do that. Teams that win the MLS Cup are teams that spend, and with 36 teams, it's going to be the same thing all over again. You're going to have teams that are going to be bottom feeders forever. So they're not going to have a choice to go towards
Yeah, but Jeremy, you're still in that North American culture of 10 teams make the playoffs.
Nick's right.
And the objective is always, let's make the playoffs. And then you never know what could happen. And right now, the argument of Montreal is, hey, we're 10th and fighting for a playoff spot, and we're not even spending close to others. So
I know, Nick, but a lot of the games are not watchable.
Jeremy, I know, but Jeremy, when you have 19,000 people going to the game, then it goes to show as well that, because if this happens in Europe, where the team's not very nice to watch, they're not spending money during transfer markets, and you see it all over Europe. Fans just wait, who's the next signing? If you don't do any of that, people aren't showing up to the stadium. Here,
I'm surprised.
There's nothing else. Why? Because it's an event for them.
Exactly.
Because it's not instilled yet that this is our club. I want to see this club grow. I want to see it win. I want to attach myself to a player. With all due respect, today,
they go because they get in for $25. Nowadays, with $25, you can't even buy popcorn at the theater.
With all due respect, today, if a kid goes into a sports store and wants to buy a Montreal jersey, what name does he put on the back of his jersey?
None. Put his own name or no name. That's what I tell people.
So, and that's a reality here. That's where
guys, you guys are two soccer guys, okay? I'm gonna ask you a question. All right, une question champ gauche. All right, you walk around the street in Montreal for a month, okay? You bring your notepad with you, okay? You have it in your back pocket. Every time you see a CF Montreal Impact cap, whether it be one or the other, you put a little line in your little booklet, okay? Walk around the city. Every time you see a Blue Jays or Expos cap, put a little one in your calepin. How much do you think would be the difference at the end of the month?
Not much.
No? You don't think so? I'll tell you one thing. You will find at least 10 times more Expo caps or Blue Jays caps than CF Montreal caps. One team has been dead for 20 years. The other team is in another city. Tony, watch, okay? Is that normal? Is that normal? It's not normal. It's not normal. That has to change. And that, for me, is a direct example why there's a problem.
I'll take it a step further. Yeah. If you go downtown today and you'll ask somebody to name you two players on the Impact, they're going to tell you Piet and Bernier. Bernier, it's 6 years he's retired.
Yeah, probably.
Right? If you would go Little Italy, they would tell you Biello and Desantis.
Okay, but why is it that you could go downtown, the old port, in those those shops there that where you pick up a souvenir? There's Expos jerseys and caps still in the window, but there's no CF Montreal or Impact jerseys. If you're lucky, they have something in the back hidden. Is that normal? Is that normal?
So, Nick, with all this said, and at one point there was a talk of either renovating the stadium or relocating the stadium, but if the team doesn't want to spend more than $10.5 million, and some of the money that they spend is actually GAM money, and the team doesn't want to go out to get a second or third DP, and now we're talking about a fourth on its way, I guess it's not very realistic to think that they're going to pump money into the stadium, is it?
It's a tough question to answer because you don't know what they're thinking.
Well, and Mosey too. All the questions are tough.
No. Hold on a second. I asked the tough ones. Jeremy asked
the thing is that you don't. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know if they feel they're in the right direction right now. We've sold some players. We're in the right direction. Our philosophy is working. I think that, if we go into a downtown stadium, I think we're going to attract a different crowd, a different generation. I don't know. I'm not in those talks.
I'll tell you this. We talked about some of the things that Joey said in the last 6 or 7 years. At one point, I also remember him saying something else, which was very interesting. And at one point, he said that one day the MLS will progress to a rhythm that they won't be able to sustain or follow. And this year, we're really seeing that. Miami now is off to the races. Take a look at one of the tweets that went out earlier this morning, Fabrizio Romano, in regards to Neymar. You know, there was talk of Mbappe for a year, but I mean, I think much of that talk is now dissipated, where it looks like he'll stay at PSG for the season. But actually, can we get the other tweet, or we have two of them here? Okay, this is the first one. Understand both Neymar Jr. and PSG are working to find the best solution to part ways this summer as soon as possible. Both sides working for Neymar to leave. Neymar has proposals from Al Hilal and MLS. Barca have to decide whether they want to try. All right. I think it's realistic to think that in 2024, Neymar will be playing in the MLS. And, you know, Taylor Twellman threw out a couple of names there, a couple of teams, if we can bring that up. And he threw out, if he becomes a free agent, it opens up the whole gauntlet of MLS teams. Charlotte, Orlando, New York City FC, LAFC, and then the LA Galaxy. This is going to be interesting to watch because, of course, there still is a market where you can sign free agents, all right? But at the same time, guys, if Neymar comes, I could be wrong, you'd have to think he's going to one of the two LA teams.
I think so. I mean, let's see what happens with Vela, because, you know, there are rumors that he might be in his last year at LAFC. But who wouldn't want to go? I was there a few weeks ago, guys, at their stadium in LA. It's fantastic. You know, the support from the fans, the infrastructure, the installations for the players, the training center. It's insane. So, I mean, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to go there. I think the Galaxy, unfortunately, they've paled off a little bit over the last couple of years. Since Zlatan left, they haven't been.
But they have to get back in the game. They have to get back in the game. They're becoming, you know, I don't want to say irrelevant. It's a big word, but they're obviously playing second fiddle to LAFC. And you know what? Even Orlando City at one point, they're they're not Florida's team. Florida's team is Miami. They're going to want to do something at one point.
I agree with you. Now, the thing about, you know, I think you're right about Mbappe. I don't think he's coming here anytime soon. It doesn't make sense for anybody. We don't have to go into depth about that. But Neymar may be here this year, because if PSG releases him, he becomes a free agent. Under the MLS rules at this moment in time, the roster freeze is only in September. They could still bring him in now if they wanted to. So that's going to be a story to follow. But just a little parenthèse here concerning, you know, the evaluation of the team, $390 million. The club has gained another $15 million in the last year in terms of evaluation. But in a city of 4.5 million people, if you compare to all the other MLS markets, that a lot of them don't even have 1 million people in them, or 1.5 million or 2 million max, and with an owner rich as he is, we should never be in that position. Never. Just those two reasons should be enough that you should never be dead last. Never. That's just my opinion.
Are you worried? And look, I have an opinion. As long as this team is in Montreal, Jolina will be the owners of CF Montreal. No way, shape, or form do I ever see them selling to anyone else. I know Jeremy thinks it's possible. In no way, shape, or form do I see them selling to another business in Quebec, other entrepreneurs. I don't see that happening. However, are you worried when expansion closes at one point, the temptation to sell the team to someone who wants to bring the team wherever they want to put it? Are you worried?
No, worried. I'm not worried. The only thing is that once they cap it off, I don't know, to 32 teams, then there's going to be pressures. That's when the pressures from the league are going to come in to meet certain standards. Why? Because you're capped off. Why? Because there's a waiting list of markets, and all of a sudden, you know, now there might be pressure, or you're going to be put in a difficult situation. Either you stick with the clubs on top, or, you know, you make a decision. And I think that's what's going to end up happening. Now, you know, when you say selling the club, would they sell it? Would they sell it abroad? Would they sell it here? It all depends, again, on the thinking behind it, you know, understanding the Saputo family and, you know, what they've done for sport here, you know, would they say, well, we want to give it to someone else here because we want this sport to keep going on in Montreal? That could be a thought process. You know, on the other hand, you know, there could be another thought process saying, you know, I'm going to sell it, and all of a sudden the guy I sell it to in Montreal does well, and all of a sudden I look like the bad guy or the guy that wasn't able to do
He
it.
already looks like the bad guy. He's
But
looked like the
I'm
bad
just
guy
saying
for the last 20 years.
there's two ways of looking at it, you know? I
Listen,
believe knowing the Saputo family, you know, with their values and everything and what they've done and how they built it and how they build other foundations and everything, I think that they would say, first and foremost, we want it to stay here, whether they keep it here themselves or say we need people that are able to keep the club here. That's my thought.
That would be fantastic. And, you know, Joey Saputo talked a few years back about maybe taking a partner. That might be an idea. And maybe that partner eventually takes over 100%. We'll see. But something needs to happen, guys. Because, Nick, you brought up the point, which is the key point. At some point, the expansion is going to end.
He's not going to take in a partner.
No, well, he said it himself that he was open to doing it. This is what Kevin Gilmore had said, that they were open to it. Well, I don't know what they were talking about, why they would have even opened that door if it wasn't true. But
Kevin Gilmore said a lot of things. How did that work out?
Okay, so
he had a partner in Bologna, by the way. How did that work out?
Yeah.
He's not going to have a partner.
Let's call.
He'll keep it here as long as it's in Quebec. And then, like Nick very appropriately said, at one point when expansion is over and they cap off at 32 teams or 34 teams or whatever it is, you're going to have to reach a certain standard. And if you don't reach it, Don Garber's probably going to pick up the phone and call you and say, guys, this is the standard that everyone has to meet. Yeah. And if you can't meet it, well, then I'll bring buyers to the table.
You know, one of my you know, when everything we've been talking about, and I just feel that here at times, you know, and like you said, you guys said that, you know, Joey has made certain remarks over the years in terms of where the league was going and everything. But you look at Toronto, you look at, you know, we spoke about LA Galaxy, things aren't going right. But at one point, there has to be that belief that you are in the right frame of mind to say, we're headed in the right direction. This league's headed in the right direction. So that you stay always with a game plan and you stay consistent within. You think Toronto, because they failed this year, you think now they're going to stop spending? Or you think they're going to change their ways in terms of, we're going to blow this up, we're going to blow that up? No, because this is professional sports.
They're going to continue to spend. They just might not go to Italy, and they just might not give a player who will probably get $4 million in Italy, give him 3 times more. But
that's okay.
Yeah,
you know,
just to stay, guys,
they always stay consistent with, I guess, their message of who they want to be, who they are, what the fans stand for, and what they want. Yeah, and this has been. Here, it's been up and down all the time. And there's that inconsistency of people never knowing exactly where we're going.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And there's a lot of work to be. And I think, unfortunately, it's irreparable at this point. I don't think there's anything that Joey can do to regain that confidence because the mistakes have been accumulated over so many years that there's no way that the public opinion is ever going to go back to a positive one. That's just my opinion.
You're wrong.
No.
You bring in one star. You bring in one star. You see the way things change all of a sudden. You go from 0 to hero in a second.
No, I don't believe that, Tony. There's been too many incidents, too many errors, too many mistakes, too much frustration, too much pain, too much anger, too much anguish from the fans, from this administration, unfortunately. Just to get back to what you guys were saying about the expansion. Eventually, the expansion will stop. Remember, Vegas doesn't have a team right now. Detroit doesn't have a team right now. Tampa doesn't have a team right now. San Antonio, Sacramento, and there are others. Okay, San Diego's going to get one now. Eventually, San Francisco doesn't have a team. We'll see what happens with San Jose and everything. Just to tell you, there are markets out there in the U.S., guys, that will want teams. And if we don't do what we need to do here, eventually Don Garber is going to say, let's see what we can do in another market. Because I'll tell you one thing, 2 major leagues moved teams out of Quebec and never regretted it.
No, that can't happen.
The Nordiques went from Quebec to Colorado, and that franchise thrived.
That can't happen.
And I'll tell you one thing, Gary Bettman does not regret moving that team to Colorado. And you know what? Major League Baseball does not regret moving the Expos to Washington, because once they moved it there, the organization solidified and they never looked back. And Don Garber's not stupid. He knows this. He knows that 2 teams moved from Quebec already, went to the States, and it solved all the problems. Those franchises are stable in those markets.
Jeremy, Joey Saputo's not stupid either. He knows that if he sells it to a Quebec business right now, he'll probably get $400 million. He'll probably get $450. He knows that if he waits 7 or 8 years, he'll get $1.3 billion.
Yeah, of course. The longer you wait, the more money you're going to make. That's how sports works.
Especially if the Neymars and the Griezmanns and everyone start coming over.
Franchise values continue climbing. That's for sure. But the people who think that in Quebec, nobody would invest in this product, I'll tell you one thing. At $390 million franchise value, dead last in all sports in North America, if an owner comes in here, picks this franchise up at $390 million, and trust me, Tony, in 10 years, $390 million is going to be una sputata, like we say in Italian, okay?
Okay.
And if he picks up that team and just does things normally, upgrades the stadium a bit, upgrades the academy, upgrades the training center, signs a couple of designated players, the value of the franchise is going to explode. So if anybody has money and has half a brain, yes, they would invest in this product because it will make money.
Perfect. So now if you're the owner and I wanted to buy the team off of you today for $390 million, would you sell it to me, or would you hold on to it for another 7 or 8 years and then sell it at 1.2 or 1.3 billion?
I think it depends where I am up here in my mind. Because to me, Tony,
Stop,
to me, Joey seems like a guy who's not happy right now. He has not addressed the media here in over 3 years. Hasn't answered any questions. He looks like a guy
because he doesn't want to put up with you.
So that's all. Does he want to go own the Canadians and face 30 guys like me? Or he could face just me.
And you're the only media guy left, right?
Exactly. And maybe soon I'm going to be gone too. Did you want to go own the Canadians and answer 30 guys like me, busting his balls?
Don't go anywhere, Jeremy. We need you. Don't go anywhere, Jeremy. We need you.
All I want is for things here to run smoothly.
Like when you asked him about the 3 coaches that were on the payroll. He thought, is it your money? It's your money. Jeremy, do you pay?
So then I'm going to go home and I'm going to go do something else. You know what I'm telling you?
But it's your money.
I'm going to go sell houses. I don't know.
Do you pay? And Nick was just at the table like this.
Poor Nick. What they made you live. What they made you live through.
The best one was the clip of Adam Braz who said, "No pressure, Joey," as if he was putting together the team.
Oh, that's not nice.
Listen.
That's not nice.
Listen, come on. Let's be honest here. Yeah, I mean, Nick Desantis was the integral part of, bringing in the players and putting together the team. With all due respect to everybody, I mean, he's here. He's a humble guy. He knows them. That's what it is. It's what it is. Nick, does that fire still burn in ending, Nick? We'll let you go because this is probably painful for you to see me and Jeremy vent here for us. But does that fire still burn inside you, Nick, or are you somewhat in semi-retirement?
Yeah, but the fire burns inside, and that fire I generated to the youth. I've been in youth soccer now, and the beauty of it is I get excited. It's funny. I speak to Mark Dos Santos quite a bit, and I said, Mark, I'm going to my kids' game right now, and the same feeling I had going to the stadium, I have the same feeling. I have those butterflies in my stomach. I'm nervous. And Mark goes, Nick, that's never going to go away.
That's true.
And it's a good thing. And, as long as that's there and I can generate that and try to, because I still believe, when you talk about fans.
So hold on a second. Montreal Impact would play Toronto FC for the Canadian Championship, a game at BMO Stadium in Toronto. You're traveling with the team. You got certain butterflies. When next week you play at MRO, you have the same butterflies.
It's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same. And I'm not lying. It's just something that's in me, and it's a part of me, and that's why, when you say, do you miss it? Yeah, do you miss, that level and the emotions of but I'm getting it through this level, and I'm getting it through young kids that I try to give them what I feel inside. And then the experiences I've had and all of that. But yeah, it's still exciting.
Bobby on YouTube Live just sent in a text. He wants to know, what is your secret? You still look like you're 25. Nick, what is it?
Is that to Jeremy or to me?
No, it's to you. Nick, what, oil of Olay or what? What's the story here?
I think that it's 5 years now I've been away. Stress-free.
But Nick eats well, and he doesn't abuse.
And he just came back from a beautiful vacation in Greece, which does the body a lot of good too, right?
That's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, this has been a lot of fun. I know you and we had a chat, and I think people are going to be able to see you more regularly on the Sick Podcast. Is that? I think that's pretty cool. So thank you very much for that. And our plan is to go on Tuesdays and Thursdays live. On Tuesdays we'll do it in French. On Thursdays we'll do it in English. If we throw in a couple of words en français, il y a absolument pas de problème avec ça. On est trilingue. Même là, il y en a qui parlent 4 et 5 langues ici. Nick, I would imagine all your trips to South America.
Yeah, my Spanish has gone better. I understand it more than I speak it, but I can get by.
All right. Sounds good, Nick. Nick, thanks for doing this, eh? We'll talk to you soon.
Guys, it's always a pleasure, and yeah, it's exciting thinking that I'll be able to talk soccer more with the public and you guys as well.
Thank you very much, Nick. We're very happy to have you. All righty, there you have it. Nick Desantis, former Montreal Impact player, coach, sporting director. He also had another title, by the way. Remember the other title he had?
Coach. Sporting director? No, what was the other one?
Player?
Well, he was a head scout or something. Or
no, it was player. Then it was coach, and then it was sporting director, and then it was, I think it was
ambassador
VP of business relations, international business relations.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he touched on absolutely everything. He did it all. Yep. Jeremy, we'll talk to you soon. Once again, we could feel the passion. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Follow us. Thank you, everyone, for watching and following along on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, on Twitter Live. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. It is the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.